How's it going, my G's? I hope you're doing well, and I hope you enjoyed my latest track, Pantheon. If you haven't had a listen, go back onto an older video or check it out on a Spotify link up there. Have a little go. Let me know if you like it. I also did a track breakdown on Patreon as well. It's like a full 1 hour lesson, and I dropped loads of production gems in there, so you should definitely join Patreon as well. That's enough about me. Today I want to talk about snare layering and give you my concise ultimate DNB snare layering guide. Nice and simple, no editing, just straight facts, straight to the point. I think this is going to be one of my best tutorials on snare layering because as time's gone on, I believe that it's just become more simplified and easier for me to explain it. And so what we've got is a little drum beat here. I'm just like sort of messing around with a loop. Made some pretty cool basses, upcoming Vital Pack soon. But today we're just going to focus on the drums and the snare layering. And what I've actually also done for you guys is I've made a free snare layer pack where I've put 20 of my favorite snare layers that I've used in previous projects and a few extra new ones that I've created as well. And the idea is you can just throw these underneath any of your like main beefy punchy snares and they'll add like an extra dimension. And the idea with the layers is that they're like lower in volume and that's how they create depth in your snare, because if you like try and layer loads of loud snares together, it kind of defeats the point because you're trying to make it three-dimensional, not just like a wall of noise. So yeah, these layers are like the little things you put in the background in your snare, and what's important that I've done on them is taken out the transient, all of them, so you won't get these like transient clashes with your main snare. And I've also EQ'd out the low end, so you'll keep like the fundamental punchiness of like your main snare. And when I talk about main snare, like there's so many good like sample packs out there for like punchy snare drums. I don't even have to like name them, but like if you just go for like DNB packs of like some of your favorite producers, there's tons of like powerful punchy kicks and snares samples already, but you can create them into your own and add the tone and the flavor and depth to them by using like proper layering. And you don't have to like compress the whole group together because it just lowers the volume of your loud main snare, so it kind of will weaken your powerful snare. So just like finding the right layers and setting them to the right volumes is going to like blend them together well enough, and you can like do a little bit of saturation to bring out the details if you need to, but like just using proper sample selection. So here's the drum beat on its own, just one that I've created recently. And yeah, there's like on the snare then I've got the main snare, which is like from a sample pack, and it's one of those ones, super simple, not much like character, but it's just hitting like all the right frequencies. So if I like look at it on span quickly, you can see that it's got its low fundamental pretty high up. So between 200 and 500 is usually cool. This is a very like high one, but you can see that the high end is filled out like pretty much all the way to the top. So that's the main thing, because you need your snare to like fill out all the frequencies. But even that is not enough. So that's why I'm that's why I'm adder-rolling more layers. And yeah, so I've got 3 different ones. This is like a clap. And that's actually the clap I used on Grey, but just used as like a layer. Then there's this live snare, which is like from a recording of a real like snare drum. And then there's another clap, which is very different and is a bit like softer and warmer and has a bit of a longer tail. And yeah, the thing with these layers is, like I said before, most of them I've taken out the transient. So in the pack that I provided for you guys, I've already done this, but you can always adjust the transient if you need to, shortening how long the file is, or just actually taking out that main transient at the beginning by lowering the attack. And yeah, so if we add them in one at a time with the snare, that's our main super human snare. this little clap. Cool thing I did is the Rift feedback light, put a slight ping pong delay, so it's got an extra stereo width. And the beautiful thing about adding these layers is you can go a bit crazier with the stereo on the specific layers without having to stereoize your main snare. You can keep your main snare as it was, retain all that mono power, and add all the stereo interest in your layers. So then we've got that clap. You can hear it adds a nice little tail and a little bit of stereo interest. This live snare on its own with our main snare provides a little bit of realism. You know, they're all very subtle, but added together, they make the snare, like I said, three-dimensional. And what you can see, again, is I've taken it down in volume. So the layers are all lower in volume because that's what provides the depth, the contrast in volumes between the main snare and the snare layer. And again, you can see here, I've taken out the transient. And importantly, I've always taken out the low end in all of these snare layers as well. Done it already in the sample pack. The link for that is down below, by the way. Just go to my website and you can download it for free. And I've already taken out the low end of those ones. But if you want to use anything as a layer, like Foley or anything like that, it's the same process. Just shape the transient, take out some low end, turn down the volume. Those are the three keys to layering it in. And then the third one is the clap variate, which is again, it's got a bit of a longer tail, and it's a bit like, it's quite nice and stereoed. Again, I've done a bit of ping pong delay, just a tiny bit, but the file was already pretty stereo to begin with. And again, just taking out the transient. So putting them in one by one with this guy as well. And then this dude. Yeah, these three layers. And I think about it almost in like an 80%, 20% rule. So 80% of the main volume and power is coming from my main snare. And the layers are doing the final 20% of extra stereo magic and extra depth in the background. So think about it in like an 80%, 20% perspective. And then you may make sure that you choose the right main snare to fit that track, so that that's carrying like all of the weight still, and the layers are just like complementary icing on the cake. So if we just listen to the drum beat with the snare without any of the layers, it's still, like I said, it's 80%. It's still like I've chosen the dope snare to begin with, but then let's add in the layers. And I've filled out a little bit of extra stereo. I've given the whole thing a bit more depth, so it just sounds way more like professional and polished and finished. And if you want more super advice like this, you can just go ahead and click the link above, book yourself in for your next Artifact one-on-one lesson. I love teaching one-on-one. It's the best way to level up a student. You can watch as many tutorials until your eyes roll back. But unless you have someone to specifically tell you what you're missing and show you, and it will just sink into your brain better when someone's telling you directly. Because I've been producing for 10 years, so I can fast track people to get them up to my level in a much quicker time frame. And I've been told that I'm quite good at teaching, so that's why I feel no shame in advertising my services to you guys. Anyway. That's the little snare layering tutorial today. Make sure you grab that free pack down below as well. If you want some ideas for snare layers, you can use those. But things like live snare recordings, claps, clicks, and maybe little human beat. You could try and beatbox a snare and layer that in. There's loads of things you can use that will be great layers that aren't, adding the same smashing snare on top of another smashing snare. So think creatively with your snare layers, use some different sounds, because that's what's going to give that snare a little bit of a interesting edge and character to it. And it's going to help you develop your own sound when you start to think creatively about how you're going to layer up your snare. And as long as you pay attention to your main one having all that 80% power already, then the details will help you make that little difference that will separate you from the herd. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, my G's. Have a great start to your week. And I've also got an Artifact music podcast where I'm uploading an episode once every week, every Monday. I'm starting off with some older recordings I did last year. We've got Copper, we've got Zardonic on there, and yeah, looking for some new people to have just friendly, straight from the heart conversations with no structure, just talking about life experience in music, DNB, and all of that good stuff. So make sure you check that out. And yeah, have a great day. Peace out.